Hello again, everybody. Happy opening day. I'm Leif Skodnick and Matthew Tallerini joining me for the 25th episode of Baseball Without Borders, podcast from the World Baseball Network. You can check out all of our baseball journalism at www.worldbaseball.com. And it's opening day not just in the United States, but also in Japan, where the first game of the NPB season already in the books. And the Rakuten Golden Eagles have beaten the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters. I now know where the hyphen goes, but we still don't know if the Nippon Ham Fighters are fighting hams or they are pigs that fight or what exactly the mascot is. But by the end of the season, I'm going to do some investigative journalism and try and find out. But Matt, a familiar face, pitched for Rakuten in that game as Escon Field opened up, the new home of the Hokkaido Nippon Ham Fighters in Hokkaido, Japan. Tell us a little bit about what happened in that game and the familiar face we saw and how he did.
So Masahiro Tanaka, he pitched 6 innings of great baseball for the Rakuten Golden Eagles. And he really dealt through 13 batters that he faced. Retired
the first 13 in a row.
Yeah, first 13 in a row. He allowed 1 run, 2 hits, and also striking out 5 and walking 2. So quoted, he did pitch 5 2/3. He did enter the 6th inning, maintain a lot of his mechanics, of what we saw even from a few years ago. So, Tanaka kind of has a vintage presence in playing in Japan baseball, who he obviously played there to start his career before joining the New York Yankees in 2014. So it was cool to see him in that spotlight, opening a new stadium that broke ground right around the COVID start. And, it's going to be a neat facility for baseball, let alone it has shopping centers, retail shops, big high-rise apartment and hotel complexes, a lot of state-of-the-art restaurant and other extra and amenities. So, cool stuff what they got in Hokkaido. For sure. And Maikel Franco got the first hit.
Okay. First hit of the NPB season.
And in that stadium. And also hit the two-run home run, the go-ahead 2-run home run in the 6th inning.
That's a big ding-dong Johnson.
Yeah.
As Pedro Martinez would say.
It was cool to see that spotlight of baseball for sure. Hokkaido didn't really get off to a hot start with certain scenarios where they had runners in scoring position, but great to see.
Well, that's baseball season.
Other side of where the other side of the world began today. Also, starting off in their 73rd professional season, Nippon professional baseball.
73 seasons of NPB and 5 games on the docket tomorrow. The Seibu Lions play the Oryx Buffaloes. The Yakult Swallows play the Hiroshima Carp. The Hanshin Tigers play the Yokohama DNA Bay Stars. The Yomiuri Giants face the Chinichi Dragons, and the SoftBank Hawks face the Chiba Lot Marines. Those games starting bright and early. If you're up in the 5 a.m. hour, the first 3 I mentioned start at 5 a.m. Yomiuri plays Chinichi at 5:15, and SoftBank plays Lot at 5:30 a.m. Back on this side of the Pacific, it's opening day. All 15 major league teams in action. Every American baseball fan, of course, looks forward to this day for months. Literally, there's the corny Facebook post that seemingly every nerdy baseball fan, including myself, puts up every year at the end of the World Series. Only X number of days until pitchers and catchers report. But opening day is really the start of the season for American fans. Only those with access or the means to go to spring training get down there, or those that live in Florida or Arizona. But, Major League Baseball now, 30 teams, 29 of them in the United States, spread all over the country. Every team in action today. Toronto, of course, being the 30th team. They play in Canada, But this is obviously the start of the regular season, but this is when everything picks up and the sport really takes over because there's not a ton happening in the American sports world between the Super Bowl and opening day. There's
Final Fours right
now. The Final Fours coming up, the college basketball season, but that's not every day. There's not sports for everyday
weekend.
consumption in major markets, except during the baseball season. So, really, this is the big kickoff of the American sports year, I like to think. And in local action, the Yankees are beating the former New York Giants, now the San Francisco Giants, 5-0. That game's in the top of the 8th. Loizaga came in just a few minutes ago for New York out of the bullpen. But, it's a big day for the Yankees who, obviously being close to New York, we are going to talk about a lot. Anthony Volpe making his MLB debut for the Yankees. He's a first-round draft pick. He was born in Manhattan, grew up on the Upper East Side until he was 10, moved to Morristown, New Jersey, went to the Del Barton School, was drafted in the first round, 30th overall in 2019. A lot of hype following him.
Yeah, had his first stolen base today, so great way to start. His first at-bat was a walk. You got to contribute some way, so we'll see down the stretch.
Nothing wrong with a walk. Walk's just as good as a hit.
Yeah.
As we know, all you advanced stats folks, happy to point that out. But it's a big day for Volpe. I didn't think he was quite ready, but obviously, the Yankees brass thought otherwise. What do you see out of him over the course of this season, Matt?
He's got to think quick on adjusting a lot to Major League pitching. I think it's going to be a different atmosphere of what he has been used to in his career. I understand, he played around almost 20 or just cusp over 20 games in AAA last year. I mean, yeah, you're not really seeing certain Major League standard in AAA, but some guys that have trailed in their careers, possibly that Anthony got to face last year. But, he had a good spring training. Yes, another end of not seeing all Major League talent because you have invitees, in placement, some guys that are going to crack the 40-man possibly. So, there's a lot of standards that he's got to apply to. It's one game. But we'll see. I mean, I think he has a bright future, but it's too early to tell what we're going to really see in him fully.
What do you see out of the Yankees this year, especially, Aaron Judge, obviously, home run today, 422 feet deep into the center field area of Yankee Stadium. I was going to say deep into the black because I'm still living in the past and think that the center field bleachers are just painted black like they were at the old stadium, even though the old stadium's now been gone for 14 years. But what do you see out of the Yankees this year? Because this is a team I think that is going to make the playoffs, but I don't think they're going to make it to the World Series. I think they just don't have the pitching, either in the rotation or in the bullpen, to really make a deep run in October.
Yeah, I mean, you have a mix-up of, who you're going to have as a closer, right? You have Clay Holmes. Does he have an efficient slider to really get batters, swinging and missing as efficiently? Who knows? I think Jonathan Loizaga, what I saw in the World Baseball Classic, Jonathan Loizaga didn't pitch well in a crucial situation.
Well, yeah, and he didn't exactly.
It's Israel.
He didn't exactly have to face world beaters in that situation either. But at the same time, he wasn't really going to get in many games with Nicaragua in the World Baseball Classic. Now, he did fine in spring training. So, for sure. I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. But I see Loizaga as more of a setup man for the Yankees than as a closer.
Yeah. I think that, Loizaga can have a capable bent out, cut and fastball, slider efficient, of where he's going to pitch left and right of the strike zone. I mean, he's just got to battle. I think that's key. But, the Yankees have a little bit of a question, too. You have guys like Wandy Peralta. How does he fit as a middle reliever and kind of swingman purpose of a pitcher? Ronnie Marinaccio, is this his year to tear it up? I mean, he's had certain standard numbers, too. So I think, these guys can fill in great spots, and it's only a matter of time of what Matt Blake, as the pitching coach, can really assess with. I mean, you don't know how Domingo Germán's going to pan out this year as possibly your fifth starter, and you got Clark Schmidtko in the next game. I mean, granted, you do have Rondon now to start off on the IL, so yeah, that's the case with the Yankees.
And let's go down to Lone Depot Park, where the other team in New York, the New York Mets,
Starting
and like I'm not gonna be down on the Mets too much because they've done a lot over the offseason, but in true Mets fashion, they made the news before today's game when Justin Verlander strained his arm and ended up on the injured reserve, or injured list, I should say. He had an MRI. Billy Epler says he's going to continue to throw. Anthony DiComo from MLB.com tweeted. And obviously Verlander is going to be a bit frustrated. But, you know, Matt, this is not exactly what Met fans wanted to hear, especially after the Diaz injury.
Just falls in.
And, you know, the Marlins are not a team to sleep on this season. They're actually going to be pretty good with Sandy Alcantara, among others. What do you think the Verlander injury means for them?
I think that, you know, you have Scherzer going today, your first 2023 opening day regular season starter. So, I mean, you know, Max Scherzer, does he fill in certain innings? Cody Senga, does he, you know, produce as much quality starts? Or what do you call somebody he's not technically a rookie. He's faced certain decency of offenses in Japan, but not all of Major League official quadrants. So I just feel like, you know, the Mets, they kind of got a crapshoot on this. Like, without Justin Verlander, I don't see, you know, the Mets going into the wild card as strong if, like, you know, if Verlander comes back, who knows how he's going to be. Let alone he's 41.
He's 41, yeah.
So, you know, you never know with guys that are up to that age and how they can still produce.
I mean, I wasn't able to throw that hard at 41. I stopped throwing hard at about, well, never.
20.
I never threw hard. You know, I never really cracked 85. But, you know, I think the Mets have a good chance to win the NL East. I think they're going to be very competitive with the Braves. I think the Marlins are also going to be in the mix, and the Phillies are going to be in the mix. Having Verlander healthy for most of the season is going to make a big difference in their attempt to win the NL East. That said, what I hope for, you know, if you're a Mets fan, this is probably what you're hoping too. I'm not a fan of any team particularly, but just a fast game is what I like to see. And we're going to see a lot of that with the pitch clock, and we can talk about that in a few minutes. But this injury to Verlander, they need him healthy. You know, you have that 1-2 punch at the top of the rotation. They've already lost Edwin Diaz, so they don't exactly know who's going to be closing for him, whether it's going to be David Robertson, Adam Ottavino, whether they're going to have to sign somebody off of the scrap heap.
Hell yeah.
You know, not what you want to see at the beginning of the season. And that game, of course, starts in about 40 minutes, so it's probably already underway or over by the time you hear this, but certainly not what any Met fan wanted to hear with Verlander being injured today. And let's talk about the new rules a little bit, because we haven't talked about that all that much. We did briefly touch on it when we were down in Florida, because we did see the Mets play the Nationals in a spring training game at West Palm Beach, and the game moved along very quickly. Personally, I like the pitch clock. I think this is something that baseball has needed for a long time. And the thing is, there was a great piece on the Ringer by Ben Lindbergh about the history of the pitch clock and rules enforcing timing on when pitches could be delivered. And there have actually been rules about this for a long time. There just wasn't a clock on the field, so the umpire could enforce it.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that, and as I said previously, when we were down in Florida, I happened to strike up conversation with a Metro-Dade police officer who, it turns out, played in Double-A in the White Sox organization. And if you know me, you know that the vortex of minor league awfulness often pulls me towards other people who have lived in the vortex of minor league awfulness with the bus rides and the bad restaurants and the cheap hotels, as I did in the hockey world. So, of course, I end up meeting a cop randomly in the ballpark at Lone Depot Park who played in the minor leagues. And one of the things that we were talking about was that the game would move faster, and it needs to move faster because when we were younger, it moved fast. On TV,
That advertising.
there was less advertising. There were fewer pitching changes. But more than that, if you go back and you watch a game on YouTube from, say, 1985, you'll see that the pitcher stays on the mound and the batter stays in the box and the at-bat moves along and the game would get finished in 2.5 hours. This is, circa 1985, 86, when I was the age my son now is. But, the game would be over at 9:30. So if you were a kid and you had to go to bed at 8:45, you got to watch a lot of baseball. Last couple of years, games going 3 hours and 10 minutes that start at, first pitch at 7:10, 7:17. Now you're talking about a game that ends at 10:30, and kids are going to sleep in the bottom of the fourth. They're not getting to see much baseball. It's slow. It's not as exciting. Personally, I like the pitch clock. I think this is going to be a great improvement. I would like, of course, I agree with my friend Kevin Kernan, the former New York Post columnist, that there needs to be better pitching, not just a pitch clock, and higher quality play and better baseball IQ. But I do think that making the game move a little bit faster does make it more appealing to the younger generation.
Yeah, I mean, you're seeing pitchers like Julio Urias, Tajon Walker. I think those guys have good pace. I think, it's moderate what's going to come around with the pitch clock. Like, as a hitter, you got to wait 20 seconds with guys on base. Nobody on base as a hitter. You got to wait 10 seconds, right?
15.
Okay,
15 with the bases empty.
So 15 seconds with the
and
bases
there's a
empty.
30-second clock between batters. So Tallerini strikes out Skodnik, 30 seconds go back up as soon as I leave the batter's box, and you have 30 seconds to deliver the next pitch.
So it's a different deliberate, sequence. I feel like, hitters got to get ready more frequently. I don't think that's going to be an issue as much. Maybe the pitchers have a little bit of an edge to be more steadily. I think it's going to be a different deal to the game. I mean, we got to see the test run of it, and, if Major League Baseball sticks with it, then that's the parameter of where, the collective bargaining agreement's going to be. So, that's the, outlook of the game for this year. You could still watch other international professional leagues that are starting in the next few days too, that either use a pitch clock. The Korean Baseball Organization uses a pitch clock. NPB really doesn't, Nippon Professional Baseball.
But those games seem to move pretty quickly.
Yeah, at a different pace of how the ethics of the game they play too, out in Asia. So, there's another cater line of what you can love in professional baseball. So, we'll keep writing up to date information, and we'll, give you more of the coverage as soon as, the season cusps around.
All that on worldbaseball.com. Now, I also wanted to touch on the shift rule, which is that now all 4 infielders have to have their feet on the infield dirt or within the restraining line on turf fields, although I think that's only Toronto now has turf infield with sliding pits, right? Everywhere else has that has turf has a full dirt infield. So they have to have the infielders.
They have full dirt infield.
Toronto has a full dirt infield
does,
now?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't watch any games from there last year, I don't think. But so infielders now have to have their feet on the infield dirt when the pitch is delivered, and 2 infielders have to be on either side of second base. This is to prevent basically the analyzation of batters' tendencies, which all this analysis was done by guys who should be working for insurance companies. They're complete nerds that just really love data analysis, and that's fine, but it's really made baseball boring. I mean, when you have guys that tend to pull or tend to hit to one side or the other, you'll see 3 or even 4 infielders stacked up on that side, and they hit right into the shift, and it's just you just know it's coming, and it takes a lot of the excitement out of the game, because a lot of times they'll have an infielder playing it basically. So let's hypothetically say there's a left-handed batter at bat who has a tendency to pull, hit it towards the second base hole, both the second baseman and shortstop will play to the right of second base, with the third baseman playing in the normal shortstop position, and one of the two middle infielders playing further back, usually like in shallow right field. So what would ordinarily go for a base hit to shallow right field is then scooped up by one of the infielders who's playing deep infield or shallow outfield, let's be honest, throws it to first, and the batter's retired. So even when the ball gets put in play, nothing really happens. Nothing exciting happens. So personally, I think it's great that they did this to remove the shift. I also think that there was not enough done by hitting coaches to maybe teach batters to take the ball the other way over the past couple of seasons. But Matt, you play baseball at a pretty high level. What are your thoughts on the shift rule?
I think it's tactical, honestly. I mean, they had to figure out another way to, make it an equal end of what could happen on the offensive scale to the defensive scale. I mean, do you see players really bunt the other way or hit like a slow ground ball to third base as a left-handed batter? I mean, it's not really, a high percentage that we do see that, but, they don't get paid to, lay down bunts through the shift. I mean, we're seeing the contracts now that players are getting throughout baseball. I mean, it's not going to work in the ethics of where the game is. So I think it's a different route they're approaching it. I wouldn't say it's good or bad. I think it's going to be another test mark. But, does it work probably efficiently for what they see in this? Yeah, I think for the players it does. But baseball's in a new, time efficient, outlook now. So, who knows? And defensive and off the bases are bigger now. So that's another advantage. They want more stolen bases.
I mean, the bases are, nominally bigger, and part of that was to reduce injury too. With the bigger bases, they determined that players are less likely to get injured stretching to reach a base.
Yeah,
which I don't fault them for that, and I think the joke about the bases being huge islands in the middle of the field is a little bit overblown. I mean, 3 inches tacked onto the base to make it 18 inches square rather than 15 inches from the seats is barely perceptible to the eye.
Right.
So, so really I don't think that rule is such a big deal, but I'm really enthused about the pitch clock and the banning of the shift. I think we're going to see a lot more aggressive base running this year, which if you grew up in the 80s like I did, the 80s and early 90s, we had a lot of aggressive base running, and it made baseball exciting. We saw Ricky Henderson break Lou Brock's record for stolen bases in a career. Vince Coleman, guys like that would run all the time. Willie Mays Hayes in the movie Major League. Can't get to Cooperstown if your shoe's untied, right?
Yeah.
And that was, I don't know if you knew this, that was former Brewers pitcher Pete Vukovich playing the first baseman for the Yankees in that movie.
Yeah.
Johnstown, Pennsylvania native, where I used to live. Back in my minor league hockey days. But at any rate, so 15 games, all 30 teams in action. The Yankees played at noon. The Mets play at 4:10. Matt, what games are you watching later tonight?
I'm looking forward to a good amount of good games real quick. I'm going to probably have to go with the Mets and Marlins. It's going to happen right now in 25 minutes. I think that's going to be an interesting game to see from Scherzer and also from the Marlins side with Sandy Alcantara, 2022 National League Cy Young Award winner. So I think that's a good geared game to watch. I like Hunter Green, honestly, for Cincinnati. He's going up against Mitch Keller for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Kind of an underrated game to look at, but I think Hunter Green's going to show off some good stuff with his mechanics. I think Ohtani. I'm putting nightcap on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for those listening.
Yeah, I've got 2 kids under 6. I don't think I'm staying up for that one.
Yeah, so I think Ohtani's gonna have a good outing tonight against Oakland's offense.
Over under 27,000 in attendance at Oakland tonight.
Easily.
Over?
No, under.
Under.
Yeah.
Matt takes the under. Okay, we'll see on Monday whether Matt owes me a 6-pack of Presidente.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it, the official beer of Lidom and Franklin Mirabal. But But yeah, so tonight I think I'm like you. I'm going to be watching the Mets Marlins at 4:10. Probably going to watch some of White Sox Houston at 7:08 on ESPN. Really excited to see Oscar Colas. I'm always intrigued when guys from Cuba make it to the major leagues because they're always exciting players to watch, like Yaziel Puig, Jose Abreu, Luis Robert, and Luis Robert obviously playing for the White Sox along with Yoan Moncada, and now Oscar Colas. So excited to watch that game. And then, Houston dealt a blow, obviously, when Jose Altuve broke his thumb. When Daniel Bard couldn't find a plate in a china shop at the World Baseball Classic. Rough start to the season for him, but it's not like Houston doesn't have a lot of horses in the barn.
Yeah, I mean, without Altuve, how does that, your offense has got to really step up. I mean, Almenez Diaz, Jeremy Pena, guys that gotta really, hit the forefront for Houston. I mean, it's just, you want to see, a good offense every day from that Astros lineup. And I mean, that's why they sell out most of their games. I mean, even if they're playing the Royals or, but if they show up in Houston, the turnout, is, they're the world champs for a reason, they're not going out for 2023. I don't see them not winning the division, but they got to show for it. And I think Dusty Baker has an understanding of where he wants the the ball club, and let alone partner with the Almenez Diaz. But Jose Abreu, newly acquired first baseman,
another great Cuban.
Yeah, Kyle Tucker's still on the team. Yordan Alvarez. I mean, you have a promise of talent. 1 through 9, even without Altuve to start the season, that I think even guys like Mauricio Dubon could step up. So yeah, I think there's a promise to the Houston Astros that they want to win the division. I think they get to 98 wins, honestly, if I had to guess. They're just they're too much of depth. Their minor league system's good, and I just feel like they still have a shot to go back to back this year.
All right, well, we'll know in 183 days or less whether they accomplish your prediction. It's a long ways off.
Yeah, it's a long ways off, but I think no, they're the team to beat. Out of all honesty, the Houston Astros.
Absolutely, but all right, so we'll be back this coming Monday, with another edition of Baseball Without Borders, and will be possibly as many as 4 whole games into the Major League season, depending upon rainouts, snowouts, and whatever else could possibly happen. I noticed only 5 games on the docket tomorrow, obviously, in case of weather today. The Mets play the Marlins, the White Sox play Houston, Colorado plays San Diego, the Diamondbacks play the Dodgers, and Cleveland plays Seattle. And if you notice, those are games that are all either going to be played indoors or in places where it doesn't rain a whole lot.
I mean, yeah, it's going to be indoor baseball, or crowd advantage, noise advantage. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know about Miami, though. I think that's going to be like Mets. That's going to be Mets Haven today.
Yeah, I mean, no, there will be a good crowd there today, but I think tomorrow it'll be a semi-home game for the Mets.
Yeah, exactly. Of course. So, yeah.
All right, so we'll be back next time. He's Matt Tallerini. I'm Life Skodnick. We'll be back with you on Monday with another edition, the 26th edition of Baseball Without Borders, coming on Monday. Until then, smoke 'em inside.